Welcome in, I'm Artress, and in this video we're going to be going over Marshall D. Teach, a new leader from OP09. But before we go into what the leader does and the deck list, I want to send a reminder that I'm doing a giveaway to celebrate 5,000 subscribers. I'm giving away these 3 Dawn cards, which I think you can only get from regionals or treasure cups, and all you need to do is leave a comment on a video from now until December 22nd, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, and then last, make sure that you react to the announcement post within the Discord. The link for that is in the description below. A winner will be announced on December 23rd, so good luck to everybody out there. Now on to Teach. He is a 5-life leader, and I think he's one of the most unique leaders to come out in quite some time. Because he's in black, you would assume that he would probably take advantage of Gecko Moria. However, this leader says your on-play abilities don't activate. And then activate main, you may trash 1 card from your hand until the end of your opponent's next turn. Your opponent's on-play abilities don't activate. What's important here is that it doesn't say once per turn, so it does have a little bit of synergy with a card we'll get to in the deck list. But overall, the way that this leader plays is very odd. It is one where you are trying to kind of keep the board clear in the early to mid stages of the game, and then once you get to the late stages of the game, you have a couple of cards like your 10-cost Teach Blocker and Jesus Burgess, which those 2 cards will help carry you to the finish line. This leader really rewards a knowledgeable pilot. You need to know ins and outs of every deck that you're going against. You need to know the timings of which some on-play abilities of some characters your opponent might have could be activated. You need to know when to use your leader ability. In some cases, you're always using it. In other cases, there's only certain turns, like certain Dawn turns, that you should be using it. So I wouldn't say if you are a beginner to play this deck, maybe you can work your way into it because you do need to know a lot of timings for your opponent rather than yourself. With that being said, let's get into the deck list and see what we have here. So I'm running 4 Laboon. I think this is pretty standard across the board for Teach. This is an activate main. You may rest this character. Give up to one of your opponent's character cost -4 during this turn. So what this is really great at doing is using the activate main to get a cost of a character down, and then you use a KO ability like a .Q, which we'll get to. You also have a couple of events that can get rid of characters on the field. So Laboon really helps get you there. We also have Van Augur, which we'll get to in a second, which also is great cost reduction within the deck. But Laboon is your primary cost reduction. It isn't searchable. There's no way to really find it, so you have to draw into it, but not really having any issues with that. And plus, it's at 4, so you're probably going to see at least 1 during a game. Next, I'm running Barto, which is a blocker from OP04. It's mostly a 2K counter, but it can be used as a blocker. I think this is great because there's some synergy here with the next card, Mansherry. So Mansherry can grab Barto from the trash, but also Mansherry is really good at grabbing out Jesus Burgess. The reason I have Mansherry and at 2 in this deck is because, well, it's really annoying for your opponent to have to deal with Mansherry because they're going to have to attack into it. The whole time that you're playing, mostly your strategy is to play little bodies that your opponent is going to want to get rid of, like the Mansherry. We'll have .Q in a second, even Laboon, right? People don't want the Laboon on the field. So all of your bodies, they have some kind of ability where they tap. And so instead of your opponent attacking your life and rushing you down, they are incentivized to swing at these bodies, therefore prolonging the game for you so you can get to 10 Dawn at a safe, relatively safe rather, life total. And Mansherry really helps with that. But the other important thing with Mansherry, which I kind of mentioned, is that you can grab cards that you have used your leader ability for. So say, for instance, you use your leader ability to pitch this Jesus Burgess, which is one of your most important cards in most matchups. You can feel comfortable pitching this card knowing that the Mansherry can grab it back. So what Mansherry does, I've been talking this whole time, I didn't even say what it does. You pay 1, you rest this character, return 2 cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order, and then return 1 cost 3 to 5 black character card from your trash to your hand. So like I said, it can grab the Barto, it can grab Laboon, it can grab Jesus Burgess. There's a lot of things it can grab, but your big target here is probably going to be the Jesus Burgess or like a Barto 2K counter, just so you can have either a blocker or a 2K counter in hand. Next, I'm running 4 Van Augur. This is a new card from OP09. This is activate main. You may rest this character. If your leader has the Blackbeard Pirates type, give up to one of your opponent's characters -3 cost for this turn. The other thing here is that it says on KO, draw 1 card. That's very important because you are going to be using this to be able to reduce the cost of an opponent's character. Your opponent's likely going to attack into it, and you get something at the end of the turn. If they do attack into it, you're able to draw a card off of it, which is really nice here. Oftentimes, though, people will ignore this because they don't want to give you extra cards, which, if that's the case, it can be an attacker because it has a decent stat line. It's a 5-cost, 6,000 power body. This will be one of your best cards against Doflamingo because this will get most of Doflamingo, if not all of Doflamingo's bodies, to 1. And then we can KO them very easily with with a lot of the other cards in the deck. I very briefly touched on Jesus Burgess, but this is a character that cannot be KO'd by your opponent's effects. 4 cost, 5,000 power body off the start. And then it says if your leader has the Blackbeard Pirates type, this character gains 1,000 power for every 4 cards in your trash. So as the game goes on, this card gets stronger and stronger. You use your leader ability to be able to pitch cards to get this quite high. There's a lot of other cards in the deck as well that can trash. So by the end of the game, it wouldn't be to my surprise if I saw Jesus Burgess at like 10, 11, or even 12,000 power, and sometimes even more than that. But this is a great card because it cannot be KO'd by your opponent's effects. They're going to have to swing into it, and that can be very problematic because sometimes by the end game, it has such a huge stat line that it's just impossible to KO by just pure swinging into it. So Jesus Burgess is one of the, if not the best deck in the card, obviously besides the 10 cost blocker, which we'll get to, but you're going to want to see this. And I think one of your strongest plays is on 8 Dawn. You can drop 2 of these the following turn, then you drop your 10 drop, and then you have like 2 huge bodies coming at them. But at the beginning of this video, I did mention that your leader ability doesn't say once per turn. It just says activate main. So you can use your leader ability multiple times, which is very important here because if you're playing Burgess and you are going for game and you want to pump the Burgess up as much as possible, you can pitch all of the cards from your hand and then pump the Burgess up to get him to a higher attack total. So keep that in mind, you can do that. Next, I'm running 4 Shiryu. This is a 2K counter from OP09. A lot of these cards are going to be from OP09 because Blackbeard or Teach is a new leader, so a lot of his support is in this set. But mostly you're going to be using this as a 2K. It does have a decent ability where Dawn times 1 when attacking, you trash 2 cards and then draw 2 cards, so a nice little filter there for only 1 Dawn after you've played it, but mostly you're going to be using this as a 2K. Same thing with Stronger. This is another 2K from OP09. It's an activate main. You may trash 1 card from your hand and this character. If your leader has a Blackbeard Pirates type, draw 1 card, then give up to one of your opponent's characters a -2 cost for the turn. It has a decent ability, being able to draw and replace itself, and then reducing the cost of something by 2. Typically, though, you're not going to need to use this to get something down low enough because you have like a Laboon or a Van Augur to help you get there. However, you can use the Stronger in a pinch if you need to. Now, you have all this cost reduction. How are you able to get rid of bodies on the board? Very simply with Doc Q. This is a 2 cost, 0 power body that says activate main, you may rest this character. If your leader has a Blackbeard Pirates type, KO up to one of your opponent's cost 1 or lower characters, and then on KO, draw a card. So this is great because it synergizes very well with Laboon and Van Augur, especially against like more of the aggro style decks like Doflamingo, where you can go Van Augur -3, and then the Doc Q will KO one of Doflamingo's bodies. And then if they want to get rid of the Doc Q, you're getting a card to replace itself when it KOs, or when it gets KO'd rather. So you can draw a card off of it, very similar to the Van Augur. So Van Augur and Doc Q, very potent combo, and I think it's going to be very annoying for your opponent to have to deal with. Next, we have Vasco Shot, another new card from OP09 that's just simply a 2 cost blocker, very much going to be a chump blocker for a lot of things. For the most part, your opponent can't just get rid of it because if you're playing your leader to the ability of, you know, not being able to have your opponent play on-play abilities, a lot of the things that on-play that would get rid of this can't be activated, so they usually have to use an event, and using an event for a 2 cost blocker just isn't worth it. So for the most part, Vasco can stick on the board, and it's very annoying because Vasco can just like chump block something that maybe you don't want to counter out of. And then the whole reason to play this deck, it's the 10 cost, 12,000 power Marshall D Teach. It has a blocker in the text box, which is absolutely insane. And then the second part of it says activate main once per turn. If your leader has the type of Blackbeard Pirates, and if this character was played this turn, up to one of your opponent's leader's effects are negated for the rest of the turn. Then up to one of your opponent's character's effects are negated until the end of your opponent's next turn. That character also cannot attack. It freezes a character, turns off that character's ability, and then your opponent's leader ability can't be activated for the remainder of that turn. So this is extremely strong, one of the strongest 10 drops we've seen in quite some time. The fact that it has a blocker and can help protect you as well is insane to me. I think that if somebody is able to chain these, it's going to be a very difficult time for you. You can stop your opponent's strongest attacker. You can turn off abilities of characters that might be static effects on the field. More importantly, it's turning off like defensive leader abilities like Shanks or Bonnie. It can turn off Enel's leader ability. It can turn off Nami's leader ability. So this card, when it's played at the right time, is very scary. Then we have Lafitte. This is a 1-cost, 1000 power searcher. It's an activate main. You may rest this character in one of your Dawn. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 Blackbeard Pirates type card, and put it into your hand. Then place the rest of the cards on the bottom of your deck in any order. This card is great because you're able to, if it sticks, get some card advantage. The fact that it's a body that your opponent's going to want to attack into means that you have bought yourself a turn by playing this. If they ignore it, then that could be a problem. Some decks would like to ignore it because like some decks are more aggro and they just say, okay, you can search all you want, I'm going to start hitting your face. But if that's the case, I think that's not actually a bad thing for Blackbeard. But most people are going to want to get rid of this thing because it is straight up card advantage for Blackbeard, because one of the things with Teach is that he is losing cards per turn whenever he's using his leader ability, and Lafitte helps make sure that you're kind of keeping a neutral hand size, or at least maybe even gaining some cards if you have 2 of them on the field. So I think Lafitte's very important. It's one of the cards that I'm going to try to mulligan for because it searches out a lot of your cards here. The thing with this deck, it's very consistent because you can find a lot of your pieces with the Lafitte. We also have a stage, which we'll get to in a second, that does kind of the same thing. Then we're running 4 Finger Gun. This is a 4-cost main. You may trash the top 2 cards of your deck, which you want to kind of do is fill up your trash. And then it says KO up to 1 of your opponent's cost 5 or less characters. The trigger is activate this card's main ability. A lot of just great upside here for Blackbeard. This is great to pair with Laboon because maybe you can take care of a 9-cost or less with the Laboon in this event. With Van Augur and 8-cost or less. Finger Gun's very nice, and you can just get rid of smaller bodies in the early game as well if you want to use that, and then fill up your trash. Filling up your trash is great because it helps pump up the Burgess at the end of the day. Then we have a 1-cost event that is called This Is My Age. It's a main. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck and reveal up to 1 Blackbeard Pirates type card other than this card, and then put it into your hand. Then put the rest of the cards into your trash. Yet again, another searcher that finds Blackbeard Pirates. Important here is that it will fill up your trash when you're doing it. So once again, you're kind of just trying to fill up your trash as much as possible so that your Burgess are really strong by the end of the game. Running 2 Liberation. This is a 4-cost event, Blackbeard Pirates type event, and it says if your leader has the Blackbeard Pirates type, choose up to 1 of your opponent's characters and negate their effect for this turn. Then if this character has a cost of 4 or less, KO that character. The trigger says negate the effects of up to 1 of your opponent's leaders or characters during this turn. I think the more important thing here is that on the main, you're able to negate effects, so you can use it to negate like a blocker, and then it just is a vanilla at that point. So if you want to bypass it, you can pay 4 and then bypass a blocker. You can, if it says can't be KO'd, you can KO it once it's in that stage, once you use this, because you can negate that effect. Very powerful. I'm only running 2 though, because I think you're kind of wanting to do other things besides just have this. Your KO events are great, but you don't want to have too many of them at the end of the day. And because you can search this out, I think having 2 of them is more important than having more. And then also, like, I have 4 Finger Gun, but you can't search that out. So that is more important to be able to find just naturally or have it in life, whereas the Liberation is easier to find through searches. And when you need it, you can grab it off of a search. So I think it's pretty strong. But I think also the other downside here is that it KOs a 4 or less, whereas Finger Gun is a 5 or less. But I mean, ultimately, it's probably going to be about the same no matter what. Liberation and Finger Gun are both good cards to have. Next, we're running 3 Hachinoso, which this is actually called Full of Lead in the actual English text. As you can see, it says that on the card art, but I guess the translation here is a little bit different. But it says activate main, you may trash 1 card from your hand and then rest the stage. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck and reveal up to 1 Blackbeard Pirates card and put it into your hand, and then place the rest on the bottom of your deck. Yet again, another searcher. You're going to want to find this rather early. Same thing with Lafitte. If you can find this in Lafitte, you're able to basically cycle through your deck and find things that you need when you need them. So very powerful overall. The consistency of this deck is amazing. I haven't seen a consistent deck this well put together in quite some time, and I think the only downside here is that you're kind of having to play with a lower hand size, which personally I'm not a fan of playing with lower hand sizes, but I think that it doesn't really matter if you have a bunch of blockers like 10-cost Teach and Vasco Shot kind of keeping you alive there. So I think that this deck has potential to be one of the best decks in the format, if not the best deck in the format. I think it does have difficulty against very strong Doflamingo players, and it could have some difficulty against some other decks. But I think for the most part, you have strong advantages against a lot of other decks, a lot of rogue decks as well. Like you can really handle Nami very well. You can handle Enel pretty easily. And then on top of that, you have a pretty strong matchup into, I would say, a lot of other things, as long as you have the knowledge of what the other decks are supposed to be doing and when they're supposed to be doing that. That's most important here. The timing of your opponent is what you need to be able to counter. And so being able to counter out their on-play abilities on time is very, very strong for this leader. But with that all being said, let's take it into the sim and see how it does. Enel is one of our better matchups. I think that the fact that we have a couple of things that really hurt Enel here. One, we can turn off the leader ability with our blocker, with our 10 cost blocker. And then on top of that, we can turn off their on-play abilities so that they cannot use their leader ability to heal back up. And then on top of that, the on-plays being turned off means that they cannot heal with like a Yamato or an Ace or anything like that. So I think we're in a good standing. We're in like a really favorable matchup for us. We just have to at least make sure that we stay relatively healthy towards the end game. Let's use This Is My Age and of course grab our 10 cost. And then I think we could just throw out a Doc Q. This might be a misplay, swinging or not swinging first and then playing the Doc Q. We should have just like swung first and then play Doc Q, but maybe we get punished, maybe we don't. We'll find out in a second here. It seems to have a trigger, so maybe we did get punished. But then if we got punished, I guess it means that we do get to draw a card off of it. Yeah, it's a Nami. So lesson learned. That's a misplay on my part. Always swing first and then play the character out so that you don't get punished for that. But I guess we get to draw a card, which is fine. Right now, I don't care to turn their on-play abilities off because they don't really have anything that I'm scared of. Looks like they're just trying to establish a body. This turn, we could probably establish like maybe a Burgess, or we could just get rid of this Frankie cleanly. I think that's probably a better play anyway. And then we'll swing 7 because we don't really have anything else to do here. This next turn, I think they're going to be at 7 themselves, which the only thing that they could really play is like maybe a Gadatsu or maybe like a 7 cost or a Luffy. All of those don't have on plays, which is fine. So we'll take the 7 here. We're at 2 life, 2/2, but we have a really big hand size here. I think we just swing 5. I get them down to 1. This is one where you're okay getting them to 1 for the most part, because getting them to 1, you can use the 10 cost teach and then turn their leader ability off pretty easily there. So now we want to start pitching cards from hand so that we can have their on-play abilities negated. But they're running Amaru, which that's actually problematic because it rests to 4 costs, so they're able to rest out the Burgess. They have 2 Amarus. They're definitely teched to fight against us, which we're going to have to counter out of this one because I don't want both my Burgesses to go away, which is unfortunate. Let's go ahead and use our teach here. We'll nullify Enel, and then the Luffy can't attack. We're going to swing 5. They're going to have to attack or counter out of this one because they can't use their leader ability. So we'll go 8, and this one might be 2 2Ks here because they don't want to go to 0, of course. We'll negate any on-play effects with pitching a Van Augur, and then we'll pass the turn here. They go Raigo. That's really strong here. And of course, their Luffy can't attack, but even then, it wouldn't have mattered. So yeah, I think they realized the problem there, but they can't counter out of anything I throw at them. I have another teach, and it was pretty much game at that point because you just go 5. They can't counter out, and then we go 9, and that's game. So. All right, we're going to go against Doflamingo. This is going to be a very hard matchup, but we do have a strong opening hand. We have a couple of Lafitte's, a couple of Doc Q's, and a Dream. Hopefully we can find a Van Augur or maybe a Laboon, but the Lafitte here will hopefully buy us some time. Now, I don't feel comfortable dropping my Lafitte just yet because Perona is a free attack into it, so I think Doc Q is probably a better turn 1 play for me to drop the Doc Q and then KO the Perona so that the Perona can't just attack into things, and then they're going to be forced to either swing into the Doc Q or just ignore it. Hopefully they ignore it. And then we're going to use our leader ability here because they set up something off the top of their life, or off the top of their deck rather, with the Perona, and it could be a Jinbei. I'm not sure what it could be. Regardless, they might go like 7, use leader ability, and get a body out if that's the case. I don't know if they expected me to use my leader ability that early, but I think against Doflamingo, you kind of have to. They just decided to swing 8 and not establish a body, which is a little strange. I feel like they probably should have established some body in some sort just so I can attack it. And, you know, I guess it's fine. Usually Doflamingos like to take the first hit, but I think that maybe he wants to just keep a high life total, which is, I guess, fine as well. But we have double Lafitte now, and we're guaranteed to have these at least 1 Lafitte stick, which is really, really strong. And if they decide to ignore it, because sometimes Doflamingo likes to ignore Lafittes, we'll be able to at least go up in hand size every turn. We'll be able to use our leader ability very safely. And we grabbed a Van Augur, which is really nice, and we also grabbed a Burgess for late game. Van Augur here will be able to take care of anything, for the most part, that Doflamingo throws down, body-wise. Now this next turn, we're going to be at, is it 6 Dawn? So we could play a Van Augur, we could play the Hachinoso, and then use the Van Augur effect, use the Dot Q effect to get rid of Weevil. That's one thing we could do. We could also just bypass the Hachinoso or Full of Lead this turn and just use a Lafitte as like a pseudo blocker, but also Searcher. So we have a couple of options here. I might just want to toss the Full of Lead because we have a double Searcher and they've made it very clear that they don't care to swing into these. Although at this point it's getting a little out of hand for them, so maybe they should. So let's go Van Augur, -3, Dot Q, KO the Weevil, and then use our leader ability, pitching the Full of Lead so that they cannot get an on-play effect. They're going to be at 7, so ideally for them, they could go like 7, lead ability, cheat a body out if they even know if they have a body or not, and then play a body out for 4. We'll see what they do here. They might also just pressure really hard. Go like 8. I don't know what the best move here at this point is. It kind of feels like the double Lafitte's really just putting in work, especially since they've decided to ignore it. I think putting a body out in general, they might just not have anything to play, which is really unfortunate for them. They'll go 8 at face. I think the fact that they're pushing so hard into face makes me think that they have Perfume Femur. But I also feel like it'd be important for them to start establishing some kind of body at some point. But this next turn, we're going to be at 8, which is very comfortable for us. We can use the Van Augur and the Dot Q to get rid of the pudding. We can search with the feet, both of them if we so choose, which is very nice. And then we can play a Burgess and start establishing a big body. So let's see what we get off the feet. Let's just grab another 10 cost. Why not? And then I guess 2K could be fine just to stay super healthy. And we're not in any trouble of getting pudding because we're going to just be playing or using our leader effect, so on-play effects don't take place. We'll play out the Full of Lead. We're just like cycling through our deck at this point. Another 10 cost, which is really pretty much game at this point, I'm going to say it. Even though they're at 5 life and we're at 2, it feels like they don't have a board presence. We have a huge hand. They aren't able to get any on-play abilities off. We have 3 10 cost teaches ready to go. So this is the reason why you should probably get rid of Lafitte's if you're going against Blackbeard. So our Burgess right now is at 7. Very nice. Very easy to swing into a lot of things here. They're going to go and play the Mihawk. I just established a body, which, yeah, that's fine. They're running low on hand size anyway, so they might just want me to like pressure really hard into them and then just try to play out as many bodies as possible so that they can pressure my face, which that's fine. And then they have 5 extra Dawn to play with here. Now, I've noticed that they've just chosen not to play anything. Rather, like they've decided not to like use their leader ability, which I think they should just be using it blindly anyway to see if they can get something off the top. Get rid of the Van Augur, we're able to draw a card off of it, which we're fine. We needed space anyway to play this 10 cost, so we'll use the Teach. Nullify the leader effect, doesn't really matter. And then the Mihawk can't be used, or rather can't be attacked, or sorry, cannot attack. It's turned off for an entire turn. So we'll use the Hachinoso, we'll pitch out, we'll get rid of the This Is My Age, we'll grab a Burgess, and then we'll use our leader ability and we'll pitch out the Burgess, knowing that we can get it back with the Man-Sherry, if we decide to do that. But I think our plays for the next 2 turns are at least decided with the 10 cost. And I think that it's only a matter of time until this game is over. Of course, Perona not getting anything off on play, just another body to throw out on the field. And a Jinbei, another body to throw out onto the field. And I imagine, showing that they haven't decided to use their leader ability this entire game, I think that they might just be swinging 10 here, but it doesn't really matter. They should use their leader ability here if they at least want to see if they can get a body out. 5 at whatever is going to just be blocked by my blocker. And now we're in a really comfortable spot where obviously we can just start swinging and they'll likely take everything we throw at them. I don't think they're going to counter out of this. 1 card in hand, pretty much it's doomed. It's pretty doomed here. So let's go ahead, swing 5, they take it. Let's pitch out This Is My Age, grab a 2K, pumps up our Burgess by another 1K. So Burgess can swing for 8. If we, we'll use our leader ability as well, but it doesn't really, we could pump it up really high, but I think we'll just use our leader ability at the end. Swing 8 here. Of course, they're probably going to take it, and then we can actually swing this blocker and feel pretty safe because we're at 2 life here, and then we have another blocker, which is going to be hard for them to get past. So let's pitch the Man-Sherry. We don't need to get anything out of our trash at this point. And then we have pretty much game this next turn. Because all we need to do is connect with 2 hits, and we have 3 big bodies, and then our leader swing. So ultimately, I think that this Doflamingo, they played it, I guess, really aggressive, and that's fine, right? I think what Doflamingo could have done a little bit differently, though, is use their leader ability a little bit more. Maybe get rid of the Lafitte's, but of course, I want them to attack into the Lafitte. The trigger here doesn't really do anything, so I think we'll just keep it. And we don't want to go to 0, although it doesn't really matter because we have a lot of 2Ks in hand. But if they decide to swing here, 8 is an easy double 2K, and then we can use our Teach to block the final 7. And that also pumps our Burgess up to 9, which is a really clean number to swing into Doflamingo with only 5 cards in hand. So yeah, we'll block that pretty easily, and then from here, should be pretty easy. We'll just swing 5. I mean, I'm being a little bit cheeky here. I'm kind of just like playing very, very safe, which I don't really need to. I could just swing 9 here, and this will likely connect. The reason I only swung 5 there, I probably should have just started off with a 9, just to get more cards out of hand and then swing 5, but I think it's fine either way. Obviously, this is going to connect 12 to 5. They only have 1 card, and then 2 cards. We'll just swing the 12. No BM here. So we'll swing 12 to 5, and that's an easy win at that point. Yeah, like I said, they had a couple of things they probably could have done differently here. But yeah, Doflamingo for the most part is going to be a tough matchup for Teach. I think that they should have just tried to use their leader ability more often. All right, we're going to go against Uta here, and red and purple Uta. I actually think Uta's got a lot of support this set, so I think Uta could be a little bit of a problem. We have to keep in mind that they have access to Shanks, the 10-cost rush Shanks. They also could have access to the Gold D Roger. So those two things combined, we have to make sure that we play as safely as possible around the 1 to 0 life. We kind of don't want to go to 0 against red anymore, at least. So we're going to play out the Lafitte, kind of bait them into swinging here. And I think that's fine. I think what they might have done differently here is they could have swung at lead, used their leader ability, and then swung the Buena Fiesta at it to get rid of it so they could pressure my face plus also swing. But I think this is fine as well because it's not guaranteed that the Buena Fiesta would also just get rid of it. But we let it go because I'm not going to counter out of that much. That's way too insane. We'll go 5 at lead, and then I think we just establish a Laboon here. It doesn't really make sense to put down the Burgess because Burgess is just going to be 5,000 power body, and we can't really swing with it anyway because they'll probably just swing into it, use their leader ability, and reduce it. So we'll save the Burgess for a later turn. We'll just set up the Laboon to be able to hopefully draw into a removal piece so that if they do establish a body here, we'll be able to take care of it. I didn't want to use my leader ability, by the way, because I didn't think at 6 Dawn it would really matter. The Ein helps them ramp up on play. It's fine. We'll let them ramp up. They'll be doing that anyway. But I think this next turn we'll probably want to use our leader ability. So let's go ahead and just, I think, probably swing like a nice little 6 here. And then establish a Van Augur as well. So we have a couple of cost reducers to be able to get rid of maybe a bigger body, which would be really nice. And let's go ahead and use our leader ability, pitch the Van Augur. So now that they cannot use on-play abilities for this next turn, I would imagine that they might be running some of the Shanks support. So that could be like a Ben Beckman on 7. We have to really use it for the next turn because they do have access to the 10-cost KO Shanks, and I don't want anything on my field to be KO'd as is. This turn, though, we're at 4 life. We're sitting pretty comfortably. We're just kind of hoping to get a Doc Q or maybe a Finger Gun or possibly the Liberation as well. So they'll swing 5 with the Ein. I think we could probably counter at least one of these attacks, whether it be the Ein or the Uta. It doesn't really matter because I'm okay giving a 2K, but I don't want to give a 1K. I want to use these Burgesses or put both of them down this next turn. So Dragon's definitely a good card against Teach. Just it adds a lot of pressure here. Let's pressure this Ein because we actually don't have anything that what we need, unfortunately. Ein goes, we'll go Laboon at face because now we're getting to a dangerous spot where it's like they could pressure us really hard. And so let's just pressure them back and then have these bodies tapped, kind of give them an incentive to swing into them. Let's go ahead and put both of these Burgesses down and then use our leader ability to pump up the Burgess by a little bit. It's sad that the Burgess is only at 6 right now instead of like higher total, but we don't have stage. We haven't been able to pitch a lot of cards from hand. So let's go ahead and counter out of this one because this is 10 Dawn. They could have a Rush Shanks. They could have a Gold D Roger. And the 5K is an easy one to counter out of. Now this next one, if we go down to 0, we're in a really rough spot. I'm not going to lie here. We'll see what we can do. But yikes, we are at 0, and they might be pressuring to have a Goldie Roger this next turn, but they have 3 cards in hand. So I feel a little bit like we need to pressure their face. And instead of playing these teaches, which could just be invalidated by the Goldie Roger, I think we kind of have to be in a spot of where we just have to go for game. So let's swing 5. They counter out. They'll swing 6. They don't have the counter, or maybe they do, but they're baiting us to go more in, which is fine. We'll go 7, which I think this might connect. And then we could go maybe like 7... 7-9. I think what I could have done here is use my leader ability to make these a little bit stronger. So that's a problem on my part. But I got lucky that they didn't have the counter there. So let's just go 9 at face. We got really lucky here if this does go through. They go 7 or 8, and yeah, they just didn't have counter. But I should have used my leader ability to pitch all of my hand to make my Burgesses much stronger. So keep that in mind if you are playing, to do that so that your Burgess can be pumped up at the end of the game. Foxy is an interesting one where I don't know if Foxy has too many on-play effects. They have like Porsche, which I don't know if I really care, to be quite honest. The only on-play effects I'm kind of worried about from Foxy could be like a 7-cost Sanji to rest anything. They could be running Kaido, the 9-cost Kaido. They could be running the 9-cost Luffy. Those things I'm a little bit more worried about, so I guess their late game is something I'm scared of. The early stuff like the Porsche, yeah, they were able to play out the Porsche, but I think it's fine. I mean, maybe I could have used my leader ability this previous turn, but I don't know. I don't know if it'd be worth it. So I think we'll just swing 5 here. And I think it's fine to establish a Laboon. I don't need to like play Liberation just yet. I guess I could have cleared the Porsche, but I think I want to establish the Laboon for some other bodies instead. This next turn, they could play another Foxy Pirate. And if you're unfamiliar with what Foxy does, Foxy basically just says -3 Dawn when the leader attacks. And you can, if you have 3 or more Foxy Pirates on the field, you can suspend one of your opponent's leaders and one of your opponent's characters, which is a pretty strong effect overall. But they need to add 1 more Foxy Pirate onto the field here. They go 5, I take it. I think I'm just going to take the 7 and go down to 2. I don't mind here playing at a low life total. And they go another Porsche. So yeah, we could be in a little bit of trouble here, but I think we can probably establish a couple things here. We could go like Laboon, Doc Q. Oh, they grab Pickles. That's annoying. Pickles, it says basically like none of your opponent, or you can't KO any of my cards. So Pickles is the only card that I can KO this turn. Although I guess I could go like Liberation on the Pickles and then KO something else with the Laboon and Doc Q. But I think a clean, what I can do here is just like -3 to the Porsche. We're going to Liberation the Pickles and then Doc Q the other Porsche. And then because I think they're about to be at like maybe, I think they're going to be at 7. No, they're at 6. I still use the Black Hole just in case. I wasn't quite sure what they could be playing. And I think also they've played 2 Porsches in a row, so I don't want them to play another Porsche as well, because that's kind of annoying. But this could be a turn where they have 3 Foxy Pirates on the field, and they could use their leader ability. They can't do it right there. I was about to say, they wouldn't do it efficiently, so they might want to swing like 7 with the Porsche, 7 with the lead, and then the second swing would be 7 with the lead, and they can use their leader ability to suspend my Laboon, which means I can't -4 something. Yeah, it looks like 7-7. I think we can take 1 and then counter out of the other one. And then the Doc Q will stay alive, but Doc Q can't get rid of anything because nothing is 1 cost on the field. So it's kind of annoying. As you can see, Foxy, I actually think Foxy's a pretty solid deck, but this 7 is probably the most annoying thing here because 7s against Teach are really good. Teach doesn't want to have to counter out 2 cards a turn per a swing. Usually you want to counter out 1 or just take the hits and then use your leader ability here. So yeah, 7-7, they're suspending my Laboon and my leader. So I can't use the Laboon. I can't swing with my leader. It's fine. It is what it is. I think we're going to search off with Lafitte. We could grab a Van Auger here and get rid of the Porsche. That could be pretty interesting here. And I think we might do that actually. We'll go Van Auger, and then we will use the Doc Q to get rid of the Porsche. And I think we can establish a Vasco shot as a blocker to be safe. And then this turn, I can probably get rid of the Burgess, knowing that if I want to, I can get it back with the Mancherry. But we are 4 cards in hand, 1 life. Of course, they don't have anything on the board, and they are going to, looks like 7 Dawn. So this could be a turn. Is it 7 turn? Or is it 7 Dawn? Or, I think it's, no, I actually think they're at 5. Oh gosh. They don't really have much going on here. So they'll play the kid out and then swing 5 at Lafitte. I think we let that one go. They used their leader ability here, which is a problem because they just minus Dawn and they didn't have 3 Foxy Pirates. I think that they forgot. I think they forgot what their leader ability does, which sometimes I do that too when I'm playing it. So they're going to go Chopper into the Doc Q so that to guarantee that this kid stays alive. But I actually think I'm going to counter out and keep the Doc Q alive. And then I can use the Vasco shot to block. If they want to like swing the other Chopper, I'm just going to use the Vasco shot here. I think we've turned the game around now where it doesn't really matter what they do. I think we've pretty much solidified a win here. Let's clear the board as much as possible. We'll go 6 at face. Yeah, I think they realized that writing was on the wall there. We'll swing 6 and they could counter out, but at what's the reason? Like the next turn they're at 5 Dawn, they're in a lot of trouble. So yeah, I think they might have misplayed towards the end, but they had a really strong start. And this deck is actually pretty difficult to deal with when they start locking down like your leader and some of the other things that you're swinging with. Shanks is a very difficult leader for us to deal with because I think that Shanks, if they're going second, which they are, if they're playing down their big bodies on curve, it can really outpace our big bodies. So we need to find, I think Burgesses are really important in this matchup. And I also think that the 10 cost is really important as well. So those two things we need to find as soon as possible. We need to dig through our deck. I'm okay getting rid of 1 Burgess because I have extras. We are able to find 1 10 cost. It's very good here. And we're going to take all these hits that we can. I think that's fine. If they use their Lucky Roux to KO our Doc Q, we're okay with that. But this is also where we might want to just swing 6 at lead so that they can't, you know, just free use their leader ability. They're going to have to give us a card if they don't want to take a hit. It's like they wanted to take a hit. And we will play out a Burgess because they can't KO the Burgess with the Lucky Roux. We will pass the turn after that. The only times you really need to use your leader ability against Shanks is usually around like the 7 Dawn turn because they could play out Ben Beckman. 5 is like sometimes you might want to do as well. We got a finger gun trigger off of the Lucky Roux swing. They were getting really, really cheeky with that Lucky Roux, and that's fine. I think you should be doing that as Shanks. And now it's a difficult decision for them. Do they want to KO the Doc Q and give me a card? And they decide not to, which is, I think, the smart play there. They have another Lucky Roux to follow it up with. Totally fine there. We will then use the Full of Lead to pitch a Full of Lead. We'll grab a Van Augur. And this is a little awkward for us because we can kill this Lucky Roux with the Van Augur, but we're going to get a card off of it, which is nice for us. And then we can swing, I guess, swing 5 to just bait out their leader ability for free. Not bait it out, they're just going to use it for free. And then we'll swing 7, so they have to give us 2 cards. They just decide to take. We'll play a little feat and continue to grow our hand size. We'll get a 2K here, and then this is the turn where I do want to use my leader ability, so I will pitch out, I think I'll pitch out a 2K because I think I want to double Burgess this next turn. And then have 3 Burgesses on the field. It's pretty nice. They could also play, I mean, their best play this next turn would be a dragon, so they could swing 5 at something, like probably the Lafitte, and then swing the dragon, which is a 9. Swing 9 into Burgess, and I think I should counter out if they decide to go that route. But that's like if they have like the perfect curve here, which, I mean, Shanks might. The only problem with Shanks is like he's very inconsistent. Like if you are playing Shanks, you don't really have ways to search out your Rayleigh or your dragon. Most aren't even running Uta. I think we should counter out of this one. I don't know what they have for 7, but I don't want to go down to 1 quite yet. I want to be able to at least be down there maybe around 10. I can be at 1 life. So this turn, I think we could probably just swing 5. I'm trying to get them to use their leader ability here. We'll pitch out the Stronger to see what we can get. Honestly, Hachinoso, or I guess Full of Lead's not really great. We'll swing 8 here. I don't want to swing at the Newgate. I'll just ignore it. We'll go double Burgess. We will then pitch out the Full of Lead. I didn't use the 1 Dawn there, and I think I probably should have used the extra Dawn so that we can guarantee at least an extra card out of their hand. But I was also debating on like, should I swing at the new gate? But I don't think it's the right thing to do here. Now we go down to, we have to go down to a low hand size. 2 cards in hand and no counter because they're at 10 Dawn and this could be a rush Shanks. And if it's a rush Shanks, the one Burgess that's tapped is gone. But I also don't want them to swing 5 into face and then me take an 8 and then take a 12 because I can't. So swing out of the easy one. We'll play down our Teach. They did have the rush Shanks, of course. We'll play down the Teach first so that we can nullify the Shanks ability so he can't just use the leader ability. And then we will also nullify the Shanks so that Shanks' ability isn't online for this turn. And he can't attack the next turn either. So swing 5, counters out. Swing 9. They take. They're probably, if I were them, they're probably going to have to counter out of the second Burgess. I'm going to go ahead and leave them at 1 because if they play a Roger this following turn, I don't have the counter to swing out of it. So I'm not going to swing with the second Burgess, and I'm going to pitch my Teach because I need as much counter to guarantee I survive this next turn. Because in an ideal world, they have Shanks leader swing, so that's just a 5. Then they have a new gate swing, which we can block with the Teach blocker. And then if they have like a Roger or a Shanks to follow it up with, we lose a body, but we don't lose the game. So it's very important to not just push to 0 against Shanks, leave them at 1 so we don't get punished by a Gold D Roger. Ooh, this is very interesting. So they are running the 2-cost event that says give up 20 of your opponent's characters minus 3,000 power. If they have a 5,000 power body on the field or more, then draw a card. So they minus 3 to the Teach blocker. Then they play out the Building Snake, I think is what it's called. Minus 3,000 to bottom deck the Building Snake to a character. So minus 3,000 to the Teach. He is at 6. I'm assuming that they're trying to use the new gate ability to get rid of the Teach, so they have to minus it one more time. And it can't be like an Otama. So this is really interesting. Like, how do they get it down to 5 without using an on-play effect? Can they even get rid of it? The suspense is killing me here, but I think either way, we might be able to pressure really hard. Hongo. Okay, Hongo. Hongo gets you there. Nice. Yeah, they're able to get rid of the Teach. They might swing at the Burgess. Yeah, 9 at 9, and we'll just counter out here. And then we probably... Ooh, this is my age is really good here. We're at 19. If we use this is my age, we don't technically have to grab anything. Ooh, another this is my age. This is really good. We're able to pump up our Burgess really higher here. Let's use this is my age. So just look at the top 3 and then grab up to 1. So we're not going to grab any. So then it pumps up our Burgess by another 1 because we just pitched 4 cards there. And then we can do it again to pump up our Burgess again and then not choose anything here. They all go to the trash. We'll swing 11 at lead. So we'll go 11, 11, and then to finish it off, 13. So I think that was probably the best 2 cards we could have gotten in our deck at the right time. Because this is going to be really hard for them to counter out of an 11, 11, 13. They might be able to counter out of 1, but can they counter out of another 11? I doubt it. So they use their leader ability here, and that means they're going to have to give us 3 2Ks. Which they have. They were all Otamas, which is great because we used our leader ability. They couldn't use the Otama to get rid of something. And then we'll just swing 13. I wonder if they have a Gold D Roger in hand. Let's see if we played it correctly. 13 at Shanks, lead. They didn't have it, but wow, it was the next card. Oh my god. That was very close. Very good battle. I liked the spice that they were running with that event, but keep in mind that you can always just pump up your Burgess towards the end game and try to push if that's also something you can do. I think it worked out here. Most of the time, it's probably the smartest thing to do. So as I said, Teach is a very interesting leader. I am still trying to figure out the correct ways of playing here. I think it's going to take a little bit more practice, of course. There were some games where I definitely didn't misplay, but I could have played it better. Like pumping our Burgess up to max power to finish out games. Probably would have been the smart thing to do against like the Uta player, for instance. But I think it just comes with time. This deck is a very new deck, of course, and so a lot of people are going to be trying to pilot it and making a lot of misplays to begin with. And I think, you know, stay strong if you're trying to pilot this. Don't give up on this leader if this is one that you want to play. I've already seen some people start to play it and then give up on it and then move on to something else. If you think Teach is your play style, I would definitely recommend putting in a lot of practice with this leader. I think this leader is going to be one that sticks around for quite some time. I think that because it's such a unique leader, it can probably survive in metas from here on out. And especially in OP10, I think it's starting to look like there's a little bit of support, as we've seen, which is very important that some of these leaders have support over multiple sets, as opposed to leaders that might only be able to live in the moment, and then you spent all this money and time to learn a deck, and then by the next set, it's already gone. Teach, I think, will stay for a little while. So yeah, overall, it's a very interesting leader. I wonder how it will do in the Western scene. I think in the Eastern scene, it was starting to pick up some steam towards the end of OP09, and we saw it top in a few events. But will that be the same in North America or Europe? Not quite sure. I think we have a quite different play style here, where we like to play a little bit more aggressively, but I do think that there are some very good control players, and I think Teach kind of falls in line with like a style of control that's a little bit abnormal. But regardless, the leader is very strong, and I think if you want to annoy people, you might want to play this leader, because I think every time that I've seen somebody go against Teach, they're like, oh, Teach, really? Are you kidding me? But it's a strong leader, and I think that's the reason why there's like a little bit of disdain for this leader overall. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate the support, and I'll see you guys in the next video.